The blue waters of Aquanus sparkled under 3 gentle suns. Deep beneath the surface, in cities made of living coral, the Zekari went about their peaceful lives. They had no armies, no weapons of war. For thousands of years they had been healers, not fighters. Dr. Kalamir swam through the medical district, her tentacles carrying medicine to the sick. The Zekari looked like giant octopi with smooth blue skin and large, kind eyes. They were famous across the galaxy for their ability to heal any wound, cure any disease. Beings from hundreds of worlds came to Aquanus for help. "Doctor," called her assistant, Niravel, "we have new patients arriving from the Centauri system." "A plague outbreak." Kalamir nodded. This was normal. The Zekari never turned away anyone who needed help. Their coral cities could expand to hold millions of patients. They had built their entire civilization around saving lives. High above in the government dome, Council Leader Tess Aaron was reviewing the day's reports. Ships from 12 different worlds had arrived seeking medical aid. Trade was good. The galaxy was at peace, as it had been for centuries. That peace ended in an instant. The first alarm came from the outer system monitors. Something massive was approaching. Multiple somethings. The automatic systems tried to identify the ships but found no match in any galactic database. "Council Leader," the communications officer's voice shook with fear. "Unknown fleet approaching. They're not responding to our signals." Tessarand's large eyes focused on the main screen. What she saw made her heart stop. The approaching ships were dark, angular things covered in metal spikes. They moved like a swarm of insects, hundreds of vessels of different sizes. At their center was something huge, a ship the size of a small moon. "Send a peaceful greeting," Tess Aaron ordered. "Maybe they need medical help." The response came quickly. It was not words, but a sound that chilled every Zekari who heard it. A mechanical screaming that spoke of hunger and death. The lead ship fired a single blast. It struck one of Aquanus' 3 moons. The moon cracked, broke apart, and was pulled into the ship's belly like food into a mouth. "By the deep currents," whispered Tess Aaron. "What are they?" The answer came from the galactic database. A junior officer had finally found a match. Old warnings from the outer rim. Stories most thought were just scary tales told to children. They're called Ravagers, Council Leader. They eat worlds. They turn everything into more ships, more weapons. No one has ever stopped them. On the main screen, the Ravager fleet spread out like a net around Aquanus. Smaller ships began descending toward the planet's surface. Where they landed, they sent out mechanical arms that started tearing up the ground, the plants, even the water itself. "Our defenses?" asked Tess Aaron, though she already knew the answer. "We have emergency shields around the hospitals. That's all." The Zekari had never needed more. For 3,000 years, no one had attacked them. They were healers. Who attacks doctors? The Ravagers, it seemed, attacked everyone. More moons died. The beautiful rings of ice and rock that surrounded Aquanus were being eaten piece by piece. Soon the planet itself would be next. "Send out a distress call," Tess Aaron ordered. "All frequencies. Maximum power. To whom, Council Leader? Anyone who will listen. Anyone who can fight." The message went out across the galaxy. "This is Aquanus. We are under attack by unknown forces. Requesting immediate military assistance. We have no defenses. Millions of civilians need evacuation. Please help us." Hours passed. The Ravagers continued their feast, growing larger and more numerous. They had surrounded the planet completely now. Escape was impossible. Finally, responses began coming in. The Thraxian Empire regretted that their fleet was 3 weeks away. The Corvan military sent their sympathy but were engaged in border disputes. The Galactic Cooperative promised to send help as soon as possible. In 10 days. 10 days. The Zekari would be extinct in 10 hours. More responses trickled in. All the same. Too far away. Too busy, so sorry. Good luck. Dr. Kalamir watched from her hospital as mechanical creatures broke through the surface waters above. They looked like a cross between spiders and sharks, all metal teeth and cutting arms. They began harvesting everything. Coral, fish, even the sick patients who couldn't be moved in time. "Doctor." Niravel's voice was barely a whisper. "There's one more response to the distress call." Kalamir looked at the communication screen. The message was short and came from an unknown ship signature. "Zekari vessel. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Terran Defense Fleet. We have received your distress call. Help is coming. Hold your position. Terrains?" Kalamir had never heard of them. "Who are they?" Niravel checked the galactic database. What she found made her change color from blue to pale white. They call their planet Earth. It's listed as a Class Twangdine Death World, the most dangerous planet classification in the galaxy. Death World? Calamir couldn't understand, but they're offering to help us. The database says their planet tried to kill them for millions of years. Giant predators, poisonous air, deadly weather, diseases that eat flesh. Everything on their world wants to kill everything else. The terrain's humans had to become killers just to survive. Calamir felt her tentacles curl in fear. Are they coming to help us or eat us? Before Niravel could answer, space above Aquinas began to change. Points of light appeared, growing larger. Ships were coming out of hyperspace. But these weren't the smooth, peaceful vessels that usually visited Aquinas. These ships looked like weapons. They were angular and dark, covered in armor and bristling with guns. Each one looked like it had been built to fight, to survive, to kill. Zekari Control, this is Admiral Chen. Our fleet is taking position. Evacuate all civilians to minimum safe distance. We'll handle the rest. Tessaran stared at the human ships on her screen. There were fewer than 50 of them, while the Ravagers numbered in the hundreds. The largest human ship was tiny compared to the Ravager mothership. Admiral Chen, Tessaran sent back. You're outnumbered. You should run while you can. The response came with what sounded like laughter. Council leader, we appreciate the concern. But humans don't run from bullies. We run toward them. As if to prove the point, the human fleet began moving forward directly at the Ravager swarm. Their ships moved with a precision that was almost artistic, each one knowing exactly where every other ship would be. Dr. Calamir watched from her hospital as the strangest sight in galactic history unfolded above her world. The Deathworlders had come to save them. The Ravagers noticed the approaching human fleet. Their mechanical screaming grew louder, hungrier. They had been looking forward to eating a planet full of peaceful healers. Now they were faced with something they had never encountered before. Creatures from a world that had spent millions of years trying to kill them, and had failed. The first shots were fired. The battle for Aquinas had begun. The human fleet moved through space like a pack of hunting wolves. Each ship was different, but they all shared the same deadly look. Where most galactic vessels were smooth and elegant, human ships had edges and spikes. They looked like they were built for war. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Terra's Wrath. She was a small woman by galactic standards, but her eyes held the focus of a predator. Around her, the bridge crew worked with calm efficiency. These humans had done this before. "Ma'am," called Lieutenant Martinez from the communications station, "we're getting readings on the Ravager fleet. 347 ships, including that mothership." "And us?" Chen asked. 43 ships, ma'am." Chen smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. "Good odds. Alert all ships. We're going to war." Down on Aquinas, Dr. Calamir watched the human ships approach the Ravager swarm. She had been treating wounded patients all day, refugees from the harvesting machines that were slowly eating her world. Her medical training told her to focus on saving lives, but she couldn't look away from the battle about to begin. "Doctor," Niravel swam up beside her. "I've been reading about humans in the galactic database. What did you learn? Their planet Earth is covered in deadly creatures, things called tigers that hunt for sport, microscopic killers called bacteria that eat flesh, weather systems that can destroy entire cities. Even their plant life can kill them." Calamir tried to imagine such a world. On Aquinas, the most dangerous creature was a small fish that could give you a mild sting. How did they survive? They became better killers than everything that tried to kill them. As if to prove this point, the human fleet suddenly changed formation. What had looked like a simple approach became something complex and deadly. Ships spread out in patterns that made no sense to the watching Zekari, but clearly meant something to the humans. Admiral Chen opened a channel to the Ravager fleet. "Unknown vessels, you are attacking a protected world. Leave now, or face the consequences." The Ravager response was their usual mechanical screaming, followed by a data burst that roughly translated to, "We consume all. Resistance is inefficient. You will be absorbed." Chen turned to her weapons officer. "Well, we tried diplomacy. All ships weapons free. Show them what inefficient looks like." The human attack began with something the Zekari had never seen before. Instead of firing directly at the enemy ships, the humans launched clouds of small objects into space. "What are they doing?" asked Tess Aaron from the government dome. Her tactical officer studied the readings. I think they're using space debris as weapons. The small objects were chunks of metal, ice, and rock, garbage from the asteroid belt that humans had somehow accelerated to incredible speeds. When they hit the Ravager ships, they struck with the force of nuclear weapons. Clever, admitted the tactical officer. Cheap, effective, and completely unexpected. But the Ravagers adapted quickly. Their ships began shooting down the debris clouds and moving to engage the human fleet directly. The real battle was about to begin. Captain Rodriguez commanded the heavy cruiser Indomitable. As the Ravagers charged, he found himself facing 5 enemy ships at once. His crew prepared for what seemed like certain death. "Sir," called his gunnery officer, "we can't win a straight fight against 5 ships." "Then we won't fight straight," Rodriguez replied. He opened a channel to 2 nearby human ships. "Follow my lead." What happened next would be studied in military academies for generations. Instead of fighting 5 ships with 1, Rodriguez used his ship as bait. He charged directly at the enemy, drawing their fire while the other 2 human ships attacked from the sides. But this wasn't what made it special. What made it special was that Rodriguez had never spoken to the other captains before. They had never practiced this maneuver. Yet somehow they knew exactly what he planned to do. Dr. Kylamir watched in amazement as the human ships fought with a coordination that seemed impossible. How do they know what each other is thinking? Niravel had been monitoring human communications. They're barely talking to each other. A few words here and there. It's like they share one mind. This was something the Ravagers had never encountered. Their own coordination came from central computers that calculated optimal tactics. But the humans seemed to coordinate through instinct, each captain making decisions that perfectly supported every other captain. The battle spread across the solar system. Human ships used the asteroid belt as cover, turning chunks of rock into shields and weapons. They used the gravity of Aquinas' remaining moons to slingshot around obstacles and strike from unexpected angles. Captain Lee of the destroyer Revenge found herself cut off from the main fleet, surrounded by 12 Ravager ships. Instead of trying to fight or run, she did something that shocked everyone watching. She rammed her ship directly into the largest Ravager vessel, but this wasn't a suicide attack. At the last second, Lee and her crew used escape pods to board the enemy ship. The Zakari watched in horror as humans fought hand-to-hand combat in the corridors of an alien vessel. "Are they insane?" whispered Dr. Kayla Mir. The answer came when Captain Lee's boarding party took control of the Ravager ship and turned its weapons on the rest of the Ravager fleet. The humans hadn't just attacked, they had captured an enemy vessel from the inside. Admiral Chen watched the battle unfold with satisfaction. Her people were doing what they did best: adapt, improvise, and overcome. But this was just the beginning. "Ma'am," called Lieutenant Martinez, "we're getting new signals. More ships coming out of hyperspace." Chen looked at the tactical display and smiled again. This time it was a much nicer smile. The reinforcements weren't Ravager ships. They were human. The Second Fleet emerged from hyperspace like thunder. Massive dreadnoughts, carrier groups, and support vessels that dwarfed anything else in the system. Admiral Chen's force hadn't been the cavalry. It had been the advanced scouts. Fleet Admiral Washington's voice boomed across all frequencies. "This is the Terran Defense Fleet. Any Ravager ships that surrender now will be allowed to leave. Any that continue fighting will be destroyed." Tess Aaron stared at the display showing the new human fleet. "How many ships is that?" "Over 800, Council Leader. And they're still coming." The truth was becoming clear. Humanity hadn't sent a rescue mission to Aquinas. They had sent an invasion force to destroy the Ravagers completely. Dr. Kalamir received an emergency communication on her medical channels. It was from one of the human ships, Zakari Medical Facility. "This is Commander Park of the hospital ship Mercy. We have medical supplies and equipment for your wounded. Permission to begin emergency aid?" Kalamir was confused. "You're fighting a war. Why are you worried about our wounded?" "Ma'am, we're human. We can fight a war and save lives at the same time. It's what we do." As if to prove this point, human medical ships began landing near Zakari hospitals even as the battle raged overhead. Human doctors and nurses, combat medics trained to work under fire, began treating Zakari patients with efficiency and gentleness that amazed their hosts. The Ravagers found themselves facing something they had never encountered in their thousands of years of conquest. An enemy that was not only stronger than them, but better than them. Humans fought not just to win, but to save others. They took risks not for profit, but for principles. The mechanical minds of the Ravagers began to calculate retreat scenarios. But it was too late for that. The humans had arrived, and they had brought the full fury of a death world with them. The real battle began when the human reinforcements arrived. What the Zechari had seen before was just a skirmish. Now they witnessed something that would be remembered for 1,000 years. Humans at total war. Fleet Admiral Washington commanded from the massive dreadnought Earth's Shield. His ship alone was larger than most planetary defense fleets. Around him, the human armada spread out in formations that looked chaotic, but were actually perfectly planned. All ships, Washington's voice carried across the fleet. The Ravagers have been eating peaceful worlds for too long. Today we show them what happens when they try to eat our friends. Dr. Kalamir watched from her hospital as the human fleet moved into attack position. She had been treating human wounded alongside her own people. What surprised her was how gentle these warriors could be. Doctor, a human medic named Sarah had told her, "Your people saved my daughter's life 2 years ago. Cancer treatment at your hospital on Rigel Station. I'm here to return the favor." Now Kalamir understood. The humans weren't just defending Aquinas because it was right. They were defending it because the Zechari had helped them before. The human attack began with something no one expected: electronic warfare. Instead of just shooting at the Ravager ships, the humans hacked into them. Suddenly, Ravager vessels began attacking each other. Their own systems turned against them. "How are they doing that?" asked Tessa Rand from the command center. Her technical officer studied the readings. "They're using the Ravagers' own communication networks against them. Every time the machines try to coordinate, the humans slip false orders into their systems." Captain Rodriguez, now commanding a captured Ravager ship, led a boarding assault on another enemy vessel. His team moved through the alien corridors like they had been built for this kind of fighting. "Move fast, stay low, watch your corners," Rodriguez called to his Marines. These humans had learned to fight in close quarters on their deadly homeworld. Ravager ships were just another hostile environment to them. The Marines used tactics that shocked the watching galaxy. They turned the Ravagers' size against them, using the big machine's weight to trap them in their own ship's corridors. They broke open power conduits to electrocute enemies. They even used gravity to their advantage, fighting in ways that worked in 3 dimensions instead of just 2. "Sir," called Sergeant Adams, "we've secured the engine room. This ship is ours." Rodriguez smiled. "Good. Turn it toward their mothership." The Zechari couldn't believe what they were seeing. The humans were capturing enemy ships faster than the Ravagers could destroy them. Every captured vessel became a weapon turned against its former fleet. But the most shocking moment came when Commander Kim's fighter squadron engaged the Ravager mothership directly. These small human ships should have been destroyed instantly by the massive vessel's weapons. Instead, they fought like a school of fish attacking a shark. They moved in patterns that seemed random but always kept them just out of the mothership's firing arcs. When one fighter was damaged, others would swoop in to protect it. "Kim to all fighters," the squadron leader's voice crackled over the radio. "Remember, we're not just fighting for victory. We're fighting for people who can't fight for themselves." Commander Kim's fighter took a direct hit from the mothership's main gun. Her ship was crippled, life support failing. She could have ejected, saved herself. Instead, she turned her dying fighter toward the enemy ship's bridge. "This is for every world you've destroyed," she said quietly. Her ship struck the mothership's command center and exploded. The massive vessel began to drift, its central intelligence destroyed. Dr. Kalamir felt tears in her large eyes. This human had died to save people she had never met. But the humans weren't done showing their true nature. When long-range sensors detected Zechari civilians trapped inside Ravager harvesting ships, human assault teams immediately launched rescue missions. "Are you insane?" Admiral Chen asked Captain Foster when he requested permission for a particularly dangerous rescue. "That ship is about to explode. The civilians are probably already dead." "Probably isn't the same as definitely, ma'am," Foster replied. "And they're people, not numbers." Foster's team fought their way through a ship that was literally coming apart around them. The Ravager vessel was overloading, its stolen energy systems failing. They had maybe 10 minutes before the whole thing blew up. They found the civilians in the ship's processing center. 3,000 Zechari families awaiting conversion into raw materials. The humans worked frantically to free them, cutting through metal restraints with plasma torches while the ship shook itself apart. "Sir," called one of Foster's Marines, "we can't get them all out in time." Foster looked at the frightened Zechari families, children, elderly, wounded, all depending on him. "Then we don't leave." What happened next became legend among the Zechari. Foster's team didn't just rescue the civilians, they turned the failing Ravager ship into a lifeboat. Using their knowledge of engineering and their willingness to take risks, they rerouted power, stabilized life support, and flew the captured vessel to safety with seconds to spare. All 3,000 civilians survived. The Ravagers had never faced an enemy like this. Their programming told them that all beings acted in self-interest, but these humans kept risking their lives for strangers. It didn't make sense to the mechanical minds. Their command algorithms began to malfunction. How do you fight enemies who value other people's lives more than their own? How do you calculate tactics against beings who will sacrifice victory to save a single child? The tide of battle turned, completely when human engineers began something they called field modifications. Instead of just fighting with the weapons they brought, they started building new ones from battlefield salvage. Master Chief Petty Officer Jackson led a team that turned asteroid mining equipment into weapons of war. They mounted plasma drills on fighter ships, creating bombers that could burn through any armor. They used Ravager technology against its creators, improving human weapons with captured enemy parts. "The beauty of being human," Jackson explained to a fascinated Zechari engineer, "is that we can turn anything into a weapon if we need to." But it wasn't just about weapons. Human medical teams worked alongside Zechari doctors to treat wounded from both sides. When captured Ravager units showed signs of original biological components, human doctors tried to save those parts too. "Why?" asked Dr. Kalamir when she saw humans trying to help damaged enemy machines. "Because maybe there's something alive in there that doesn't want to be a weapon," replied Dr. Patterson, the chief human medical officer. This compassion confused the Ravagers even more. These humans were destroying them while simultaneously trying to heal them. It was behavior that no mechanical mind could understand. As the battle entered its final phase, something extraordinary happened. The remaining Ravager ships began to surrender. Not because they were defeated. They still outnumbered the humans in some areas. But because they couldn't understand their enemies. The mechanical plague that had consumed 100 worlds was stopped by something it had never encountered before. Beings who fought not for themselves but for others. The humans had won more than a battle. They had shown the galaxy what it meant to be truly alive. The battle was turning into something the galaxy had never seen before. A hunt. The humans weren't just fighting the Ravagers anymore. They were hunting them down like predators tracking prey. Fleet Admiral Washington studied the tactical display from his command ship. The Ravager fleet was breaking apart, trying to scatter in different directions. This was exactly what he had hoped for. "All ships," he announced, "switch to hunter formation. Don't let any of them escape." Dr. Kalamir watched from her hospital as the human fleet transformed. What had been a defensive formation became something else entirely. The ship spread out like a net, moving to surround fleeing Ravager vessels from all sides. "They're hunting them," whispered Niravel in amazement. "Like predators, but why?" asked Kalamir. "The Ravagers are retreating." "Isn't that enough?" Her answer came from a human communication channel they were monitoring. Captain Santos of the cruiser Hunter's Moon was speaking to his crew. "We let them go. They'll just find another peaceful world to attack. We end this here, or innocent people die somewhere else." This was the difference between humans and every other species in the galaxy. Others fought to defend their territory. Humans fought to eliminate threats to anyone. The hunt began in earnest. Human ships moved with a coordination that amazed everyone watching. They cut off escape routes, herded fleeing Ravagers into kill zones, and systematically destroyed every enemy vessel they could find. But it wasn't just about superior tactics. The humans fought with an intensity that came from deep emotion. Every Ravager ship represented worlds that had been destroyed, people who had been killed, civilizations that had been wiped out. Commander Sarah Kim had died in this battle. Commander Park had lost half his medical team trying to save Zechari civilians. Every human in the fleet had a personal reason to make sure the Ravagers never hurt anyone again. Captain Foster led his assault team onto another Ravager ship. This time they weren't just rescuing civilians, they were gathering intelligence. The humans wanted to know where the Ravagers came from, how many of them existed, and how to stop them permanently. "Sir," called Marine Sergeant Lopez, "we found their navigation database. This fleet came from the void sectors, but there are more out there. Lots more." Foster studied the alien data files. The Ravagers weren't just raiders, they were scouts for something bigger. This fleet had been sent to test galactic defenses before a larger invasion. "Upload everything to Fleet Command," Foster ordered. "Admiral Washington needs to see this." Back on the flagship, Washington received the intelligence with grim satisfaction. The Ravagers weren't just attacking random worlds. They had been planning a systematic conquest of the entire galaxy. "Ma'am," called his intelligence officer, "according to this data, they've already consumed over 300 worlds in the Outer Rim. The galaxy doesn't even know those civilizations are gone." Washington felt the cold anger that made humans such effective warriors. 300 worlds, billions of people, all dead because no one had been strong enough to stop these machines. "Signal all ships," he ordered. "New mission parameters. We're not just saving Aquanas. We're ending the Ravager threat permanently." The human fleet began something unprecedented in galactic history. A systematic extermination campaign. They hunted down every Ravager ship, no matter how small. They tracked fleeing vessels across multiple star systems. They showed no mercy to an enemy that had shown no mercy to others. But even in their fury, the humans maintained their principles. When they found Ravager ships with living prisoners aboard, they risked everything to save those captives. When they discovered that some Ravager technology could be used for healing instead of destruction, they preserved it. Dr. Kayla Meir received another shock when she met Dr. Jennifer Walsh, a human xenobiologist who had been studying captured Ravager components. "Doctor," Walsh explained, "some of these machines were originally biological beings. We think the Ravagers convert captured populations into cybernetic components." "You mean the people they killed might still be alive somewhere inside those machines?" "Possibly. We're trying to find a way to reverse the process." This was what separated humans from other predators. Even while destroying their enemies, they looked for ways to save the innocent. The hunt continued across the solar system. Human fighters chased down Ravager scouts trying to escape with intelligence about galactic defenses. Human Marines boarded crippled enemy ships to prevent self-destruct sequences that might destroy evidence. Captain Rodriguez found himself in command of a small task force pursuing 3 Ravager ships toward the edge of the system. His orders were clear. "Don't let any of them escape." "Sir," called his tactical officer, "they're heading for hyperspace jump points. If they make it to FTL, we'll lose them." Rodriguez studied the situation. His ships were faster, but the Ravagers had a head start. In a straight chase, some might escape. All ships, maximum acceleration. We're going to cut them off. What followed was a chase scene across multiple star systems. Human ships pushed their engines beyond safe limits, using gravitational slingshots and dangerous shortcuts through asteroid fields to catch their prey. The humans caught the first Ravager ship near a gas giant. Instead of simply destroying it, they used an innovative tactic. They used the planet's gravity to trap the enemy vessel and forced it to surrender. The second ship tried to hide in a nebula, using the radiation to mask its signature. The humans responded by sending in fighters equipped with special sensors. They found the Ravager ship and forced it to surrender as well. The third ship almost made it to hyperspace. Almost Commander Lisa Park, in her fast attack craft Lightning Strike, caught up to the fleeing Ravager just as it began to jump. Instead of letting it escape, she did something incredibly dangerous. She jumped with it. "Park to Fleet Command." Her voice crackled over long-range communications. "I'm in hyperspace with the target, attempting to force it out of FTL." What she did next had never been tried before. Using her ship's weapons, she damaged the Ravager's hyperspace drive while both ships were still in FTL. The feedback forced both vessels back into normal space, but in a completely unknown location. "Ma'am," Park's navigator called out, "I have no idea where we are." "Doesn't matter," Park replied. "Send a signal drone back to Fleet Command with our location." Then we take the ship apart and find out everything it knows. Hours later, rescue ships found Park's vessel drifting in deep space. She had successfully captured the Ravager ship and extracted its entire database of information about Ravager operations across the galaxy. The intelligence she provided was staggering. The Ravagers had consumed over 500 worlds. They had turned entire civilizations into raw materials for their fleet. They were planning to attack the galactic core worlds within the year, but now they were stopped. Every ship in the Aquinas system had been destroyed or captured. The scout fleet that was supposed to report back to the main Ravager force was gone. Admiral Washington called a meeting of all ship commanders. "People, we've won the battle, but the war's just beginning. There are more Ravager fleets out there, and now we know where to find them." Dr. Kalamir listened to the human communications with growing amazement. These beings had just fought the hardest battle in galactic history, and now they were planning to seek out more enemies to fight. "Why?" she asked Dr. Walsh. "You've saved our world. Why risk more lives fighting other Ravager fleets?" Walsh's answer was simple. "Because if we don't, who will?" The humans had proven something that day. They weren't just defending their friends, they were defending everyone. The galaxy's apex predators had become its guardians. The battle for Aquinas was over. The Ravager fleet was destroyed, their mothership captured, and their threat to the galaxy revealed. But the real story was just beginning. Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the main conference room aboard her flagship, surrounded by representatives from dozens of galactic species. They had all come to see the aftermath of humanity's first major intervention in galactic affairs. "Admiral," began Ambassador Vel Karan of the Thraxian Empire, "your victory is impressive. Now shall we discuss payment for your services?" Chen looked confused. "Payment? Your reward for defending Aquinas. Mining rights, perhaps. Technology transfers. Territory? We don't want payment," Chen said simply. "We were asked for help. We helped." The galactic representatives looked at each other in confusion. No one fought wars for free. No one risked their people without expecting something in return. Dr. Kalamir swam forward. She had been chosen to speak for the Zekari people. "Admiral Chen, we owe you our lives, our world, our entire civilization. How can we repay this debt?" "You don't owe us anything," Chen replied. "You called for help when you needed it. That's what people do. But surely you want something," pressed the Corvin representative. "Advanced medical technology? Access to our trade routes?" Chen was quiet for a moment, then smiled. "Actually, there is one thing we'd like." The room leaned forward. Now they would see humanity's true nature. "We'd like permission to establish a small embassy here on Aquinas, and maybe a refueling station for our ships. Nothing big." The silence in the room was complete. That was it? An embassy and a fuel depot? Ambassador Tesseran spoke for her people. "Admiral, you saved 3 billion lives today. You can have anything you want." "That's all we want," Chen assured her. "Well, that and maybe some of your medical knowledge. We've got some veterans who could use your healing expertise." The galactic representatives began to realize they were dealing with something unprecedented, a military force that fought not for conquest but for protection. Over the following days, more shocking revelations emerged. The human database contained records of 17 other interventions in the past decade. 17 times human fleets had responded to distress calls from species they had never met. They had driven off raiders attacking the peaceful Sylvan agricultural worlds. They had rescued miners trapped in a collapsing asteroid facility. They had even evacuated an entire planet when its star went unstable, asking for nothing in return but gratitude. "Why?" Dr. Kalamir asked Admiral Chen during a private meeting. "Why do you help strangers?" Chen was quiet for a long time. When she spoke, her voice carried the weight of human history. "Doctor, our world tried to kill us for millions of years. We learned to survive by helping each other. When humans worked together, we could face anything. When we fought each other, we all suffered." She gestured toward the stars visible through the window. "The galaxy is dangerous. There are threats out there that no single species can handle alone. But together we can face anything. Even Deathworlders need friends," Kalamir asked gently. Chen smiled. "Especially Deathworlders." The conversation was interrupted by an urgent communication from Fleet Admiral Washington. More distress calls were coming in from across the galaxy. 3 different systems were reporting Ravager attacks. "Admiral," Washington's voice was grim, "it's worse than we thought. The Ravagers we fought here were just one small fleet. There are hundreds more out there. Chen felt the familiar weight of command settle on her shoulders. Orders, sir. We're spreading the fleet thin, but we'll do what we can. Take the third fleet and respond to the Rigel system. They're reporting civilian evacuations under fire. As Chen prepared to leave, Dr. Kalamir made a decision that would change galactic history. Admiral, wait. We're coming with you. Doctor? The Zakari people have decided. We can't fight, but we can heal. Every human ship should have a Zekari medical team aboard. Chen was amazed. You'd risk your people to help us save strangers? You taught us something today, Kalamir explained. Strength isn't just about fighting. It's about protecting those who can't protect themselves. Within hours, Zakari medical ships were joining the human fleet. It was the beginning of something new, an alliance based not on trade or territory but on shared values. The news spread across the galaxy like wildfire. The humans had not only defeated the Ravagers, they had inspired others to join their cause. The Deltan engineers offered to upgrade human ships with better shields. The Centauri pilots volunteered to fly escort missions. Even the warrior caste Thraxians requested permission to serve alongside human marines. Captain Rodriguez found himself commanding a mixed crew of 6 different species as they hunted down Ravager remnants in the outer systems. What amazed him wasn't their different abilities. It was how quickly they learned to work together. Sir, called his Thraxian weapons officer. Ravager ship detected. It appears to be damaged. Deltan Engineering, can you scan for life signs? Rodriguez asked. Yes, Captain. Multiple biological readings. Looks like prisoners. Zakari Medical, prepare for rescue operations. This had become the standard response. Human tactics, Deltan technology, Thraxian firepower, and Zakari healing, all working together to save lives. The Ravager ship surrendered without a fight. Its crew had heard what happened to their comrades at Aquinas. They knew they couldn't win against this new alliance, but the most important moment came during the prisoner rescue. Among the captives was a young Ravager unit that was still partially biological. The human-led team didn't just free it, they tried to heal it. Dr. Walsh and Dr. Kalamir worked together to separate the biological components from the mechanical ones. It took hours of delicate surgery, but they succeeded. For the first time in galactic history, a Ravager conversion was reversed. The freed being was a Corvan child who had been captured months earlier. As consciousness returned, the first thing it saw was humans and Zekari working together to save its life. Word of this success spread quickly. If Ravager conversions could be reversed, then billions of beings thought lost forever might still be saved. Within a year, the Terran Covenant was signed by over 200 species. It was the largest alliance in galactic history, but also the most unusual. It had no trade requirements, no territorial exchanges, no complex political agreements. The Covenant had only one rule. Any member species under attack would be defended by all other members. No exceptions, no politics, no delays. Dr. Kalamir attended the signing ceremony on Earth. She had never seen a death world before, and found it both terrifying and beautiful. Everything was so alive, so vibrant, so dangerous. How do you stand it? She asked Admiral Chen as they watched a sunset over Earth's Pacific Ocean. Our world taught us that life is precious because it's fragile, Chen explained. Every day we survived was a gift. That's why we fight so hard to protect it, in ourselves and in others. And that's why the galaxy trusts you, Kalamir realized. You understand what it means to be vulnerable. The ceremony concluded with words that would become the Covenant's motto. Admiral Chen spoke for all humanity. We are the children of a world that tried to kill us, and we refused to die. We learned that the only way to survive is to help each other survive. Today we extend that protection to all who need it. Because in the end, we're all just people trying to live in a dangerous universe. And people should help people. The galaxy had found its guardians. Not conquerors from a death world, but protectors who understood that the greatest strength comes from defending those who cannot defend themselves. The age of the Terran Covenant had begun.